Welcome, everyone, to the L7C Podcast Wrestling Edition. That is right. Wrestling edition of the L7C Podcast is back. We got the wrestling expert with us, Mr. Jacob Mason. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing really good. I just woke up from a nap. And here talk some wrestling. It's been a minute. We've had a couple weeks. Gave Mitch Ozo plenty of time to get some more listens and try and catch up. So I'm here just to defend my place on the throne.
Yeah, it's been a while for a wrestling update. Our last wrestling episode that got published was September 20th. So over a month ago, and that was talking about if CM Punk, if it was all worth it, his return and all that. But we need to take a break because we were ripping and running. There was almost 2, 3, 4 wrestling pods a month these past couple months.
Gotta stay busy, man. Gotta stay busy. Keep ahead of Mitch.
I hear you. And with the month of November approaching, that's going to be the last full month, really, then some December. And then we're going to be at that end of year podcast where it all goes down.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait.
But Jacob, since we've been away, there's been a lot of stuff that has happened in regards to the world of wrestling. So one of the things I want to start off with is something that we on this podcast have always complained about: the AEW's women's division. So this is our first time being able to actually give our thoughts on the podcast. Why the hell did Tony Khan let Jade leave?
Dude, I had no idea. I mean, the problem is, which is a lot of the problems with the AEW, is I have seen so many different rumors on what actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I still don't know officially what exactly happened, other than the fact that she left. And WWE has been parading around to every promotion that they've had so far.
Yeah, it's so weird that's a great point you brought up. She hasn't even had a match yet, and she in WWE feels like a significantly bigger star than she was in AEW when she was the champ for that AEW TBS championship for like 500 whatever undefeated X amount of days. Her first thing, face to face with Charlotte, face to face with Becky. She's being face to face with all the top people. Sooner or later, she'll have the face to face with Bianca. Like, these are the top women in history, and she's having face to faces with them. Like, I'm still mind boggled that they let her go, man.
Yeah. WWE has really, really done a great job with her so far. Starting out, and she hasn't, like you said, she hasn't had a match, but she's showing up everywhere, which means you're watching all these different WWE shows being like, oh, is she going to show up here? Is she going to show up there? Where's she going? When's her first match? No one knows. Whatever.
And they're presenting her like a superstar, man.
It's literally like the Cody treatment.
Yeah.
She's getting the Cody treatment. I mean, if she does as good as they're hoping she's going to, I mean, you might have a Jade countdown like Cody did when he first got there.
Mm-hmm. That's a good
But
point.
with AEW, I mean, dude, that women's division's, dude, it's not that they have bad people there, but whoever is writing that shit is garbage.
We talk about you're right, they don't have bad people there. They don't, but we used to give WWE a whole bunch of crap when from 2015 to 19, main people winning, 4 horsewomen and Asuka. And then since post then, we've had like a Liv Morgan win the title. We've had Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley. We've had Io Sky winning. You go to AEW, man, it's been Sheeta, Toni Storm, Britt Baker, Thunder Rosa, and you had like Rio and Nia Rose at the beginning, but that doesn't really matter. But it's really only been like, especially recently, it's been like Tony and Sheeta for for the past couple years.
Yeah, so which then makes you go back to think like, is Britt Baker the devil that she gets made out to be a lot? Because I feel like if she was, she'd have that title a lot more. I feel like it'd kind of be more of a Charlotte thing, which I'm not taking that as a shot toward Charlotte. But I mean, hell, it was not last week, but 2 weeks ago. Me and my wife were on vacation. We were down in Puerto Rico, and we flipped on Dynamite on Wednesday. And even I had I was like, wait a second. I was like, she just got the title again? Quote unquote, I'm the wrestling expert. And I'm like, dude, I'm not even keeping track of all this shit because I thought Saraya had it.
Yeah,
dude, they're handling the living fuck out of that title. But that being said, I want to go into a kind of a good point here about AEW women's wrestling. Because the one thing that we've always said, and we've been very vocal about this on the podcast, is Toni Storm is hot garbage. Dude, she's completely turning her character around.
Yeah, timeless Toni. She is it obviously is better late than never. She has completely reinvented herself. Yes.
And good for her because Jesus Christ, did she fucking need it? And she's owning it and she's doing great. And I'm actually really happy to see it. But that being said, is she good enough that you want to give her the title back? Because yet again, we'd go through another hot potato fucking phase. I'm waiting for what's her name to come back from injury and
Jamie Hayter.
Jamie Hayter. I just want to see a very good long run or a very important run. You need one of the two. You need a dominant champion or you need a champion that is in the best storyline in wrestling.
So this is the crazy thing with, and I don't want to, this isn't a defending of Charlotte. This is more of a bash on AEW. Jade Cargill has been on AEW almost, we'll basically say since day one. She never got any main event time or screen time with Britt Baker.
Yeah, she didn't.
None of those people. And that goes back to the Britt Baker thing of, if you're not a part of her crew, you can't work with her. To go back to those rumors. Jade's first night, she's face-to-face with statistically the greatest woman wrestler of all time. From a stats perspective. In our first night, but X amount of years on AEW, she never has a face-to-face with Britt Baker, the woman, the main person there. She never has a main title opportunity because we talked about this on the podcast of all right, Jade's dropping it. Maybe it's time. It's Jade's time. Jade is there, Bianca Belair. Strap it to the moon. She presents, never gets a main title match. And these last four champions, Toni Storm got the belt when Jamie Hayter got hurt. And then Sheeta beat her. And then literally 25 days later, Saraya won it in London just for Saraya to lose it a month later to Sheeta again. So they did we knew they did the Saraya thing for the cheap pop in London in All In, and she pinned Toni, but you could have just did Toni versus Saraya there. That ain't it, man. And the fact they let Jade go, it's obviously the Cody thing, we were man, he's coming home, quote unquote, but he basically helped start AEW, and for him to leave, that was major. This is a homegrown top female in her prime, could have really strapped her to the moon, and they let her walk.
Yeah, which I think this also goes to prove, and we said it when Cody finally did show up to WWE, if they do this right, you can poach a lot of talent from AEW, and it's already proven to be effective. You've got, minus Britt Baker, you had the biggest women's star in the entire company, came right over. And when it comes to the bidding war 2024 for MJF,
it could actually be we know it's a work, which is a great work, but sooner or later, that works at a tie to maybe some shoot.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think when it gets closer, when that does come up, you're going to see more and more shoot promos on it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I heard that Tony Khan, I heard he allegedly offered more than what she was asking, or gave her exactly what she was asking, and then she went to WWE and he offered more. Whether that's true or not, I have no idea.
Well, if it is true, that means it's it's an internal issue. If she would turn down more money, that means something was going on in that back, or she was just like, why am I not getting opportunities? It's one of those things if you're getting offered more money.
Right? Yeah. Which goes back to the another Cody thing is that
Mm-hmm.
big thing he had on Peacock.
Yeah.
And when he talked about AEW, he goes, it wasn't money, it wasn't this, it was a no,
Difference in
internal,
creative or internal.
something along those lines. Yeah, he
Mm-hmm.
was very vague about it, but didn't exactly say what it was, but just said he just had differences or had a problem. So obviously there is something major but there's not just one thing though.
No.
There
And
is a bunch of wildfires going on with that back.
and you think of something like this too on Busted Open Radio. A top girl who we know her and Britt's beef is legitimate. Thunder Rosa even said, like, everywhere I go now, they asked her about Jade. Everywhere I go, I see Jade on my feed. She looks like $1 million. It's like if I were to go somewhere else, I would want to be treated like that.
Yeah.
Like
And
she's
WWE is smart for it, man.
Mhm.
They're smart as fuck.
So, and Thunder Rosa could be someone. She's like, dude, I'm never gonna be seen anywhere near. I'm never gonna be seen as Britt Baker's equal. Britt Baker's the top woman here. She hates me. Maybe I leave too. And my contract's up.
I wouldn't blame her. I wouldn't blame her one bit. You know,
But
especially if WWE would let her continue doing the busted open stuff.
that is true. That's true too. And it's also weird too that AEW, we've always seen it as like an MJF, Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara, like the new generation of male wrestlers. But they lose their top woman, but then they get Adam Copeland, aka Edge. And Edge was just basically like, well, Adam's basically like, I've done everything in WWE, want to try something new. And basically to retire or whatever with his best friend over there, Christian. But I'm like, that was cool, but it was almost within the same week, and it was not as impactful as Jade going because we know Edge is near the end and Jade is entering her prime, and AEW's men don't have the problem.
Yeah, right. But then we have to look at you brought up Edge as a perfect segue into this. We have to look at the fact that him and Ricky Starks allegedly have real smoke now, have real problems.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they had that promo there on TV, and dude, that was that was if that wasn't a shoot, that was the most well done non-shoot promo I've ever seen.
Wasn't that a promo they had against each other? Wasn't that on CM Punk's former show, Collision?
I
On the
I
Saturday
believe,
show.
yeah, which is just fucking perfect.
That's great because I don't know, man. Like Adam, it's obviously that is a true Hall of Fame signing thing, but it's like he's not going to be here. He's not going to be here carrying that company for the next 10 years.
No, you bring Edge in to elevate 1 to 2 stars, have him do a little swan song with Christian Cage.
Yep.
And then Edge is done, which we all know and we're all fine with.
Yep.
Listen, we got the return of Edge. Edge has given us everything he could possibly give us. What else could we ask of him? So I mean, from a wrestling standpoint, I mean, you nailed it on the head. He showed up in AEW, but like honestly, what I thought was bigger than Edge showing up on AEW was the fact that Metalingus, his fucking theme song, played on AEW compared to Jade, who just like showed up and was like, "What's up, Charlotte?"
Yeah, that was so wild. And then just recently, I mean, Tony Khan brings because Sting says he's about to retire. So Tony brings Ric Flair to the fold, and I pray to God Tony does not let Rick wrestle.
Oh Christ! I don't think he will. God, I hope not.
Ah,
I mean, Ric Flair said he wants to die in the fucking ring. Well, dude, that almost happened at your last match. So
yeah. Yeah. But
whoever's gonna put Rick on their next show needs to have one hell of an insurance policy.
well, we know Tony's got the money for it. But speaking of Tony, he wanted smoke this month. Obviously, we had that big Tuesday that AEW had to get moved because of the playoffs, and it was on Tuesday. NXT was on Tuesday, so they were getting head to head. AEW commentary team was calling it the biggest dynamite of all time. Things of that nature. It was, you said it the best. It was fantastic for wrestling fans because both places went all out. And
No pun intended.
yeah, no pun intended. I mean, NXT had the bigger ratings, and Tony was going crazy. Like before the stuff he was calling Triple H a bald. Well, he didn't act Triple H, but we all know who he was talking about, saying a bald headed bitch. But AEW, I mean, they lost the ratings statistically. They did. If you count moral victories, they're saying like Tony Khan had that weird tweet saying this is the first time ever that John Cena or Undertaker have ever been on a wrestling show, and they didn't pop a million because I think NXT got to like 9 something or something, whatever. And it didn't pop a million. That just shows how good AEW is. I'm like, Tony, let's just it's okay. Take the loss. It's like just let it go. It was a good night.
Take your fucking L, dude. It's not a big deal either. All right, it's the equivalent of all right. So we're recording this on Sunday, the 29th.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yesterday, we just had Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou. I don't know if you watched the boxing match or not, but technically, Tyson Fury won that match. But everyone in the entire world is like, Francis Ngannou won that fucking boxing match. So, like, yes, he lost, but like, they had you not trying to defend AEW here. Even though I'm normally the stand for AEW, you had to have John Cena. You had to have Cody Rhodes. You had to have fucking Undertaker.
Becky Lynch. They stacked it. They were Oscar Russell. They stacked it. They weren't playing around.
Oh no, dude. Shawn Michaels called up his boy Triple H, said, I want them all.
Yeah.
I'm gonna win. I'm not losing this goddamn ratings battle. I want them all. Who do you need? All. Yes. Yes, that's exactly who I need. But so pull out all the big guns and like you still competitively, it's not like they blew you completely out of the fucking water. But you lost technically. But so you lost to John Cena and The Undertaker and Cody Rhodes. BFD, dude.
Yeah.
Take your fucking L and move on. Quit being a little bitch about it. That's what I think.
You're 100% right. I think the biggest thing with that NXT Tuesday, though, is it wasn't like John Cena or Undertaker or like Cody were wrestling in the main events, or Oscar. Oscar did wrestle Roxanne on stuff, but they were putting the young people over. So you were still continuing the young people, like Cena put over Hayes, Braun Breaker, Undertaker put over Hayes, interacted with Braun Breaker. Like they were doing the right things. Which that's what you want your stars to, like your big Omega stars to do, because they're like, we're not going to be around. So we're going to push Braun, because, I mean, you know, if this was like 10 years ago, John Cena would be like, oh, hell no, Braun Breaker's not going to lay my ass out on anything. Or Hayes isn't. Hayes and Braun Breaker were still the main event. Undertaker came, pointed to Carmelo Hayes, like these two are the next two up, and Asuka, even though she beat Roxanne Perez, still put her over. Obviously, Asuka is literally an NXT freaking legend. She's having interactions with all the girls, face to face with Tiffany. Like Cody's being basically a GM there, so he's not wrestling. Like they did it right, man.
Dude, they spread it out. You had to watch all of NXT
because Edge was the main event. Like, see, that's the thing. Adam was the main event during that thing, and it's like, come on.
Yeah,
why was MJF not the main event?
Right. But The fact you had Edge. Edge was your biggest caliber bullet that you put into the gun that day. All right. I'm sorry. I like Edge. Everyone likes Edge.
Yep.
Edge does it. Edge doesn't. Not. I'm not saying this in a mean way, but Edge isn't holding a fucking candle to Taker, Cena, Heyman, Cody.
Yeah,
Oscar.
I even forgot Heyman. Yeah, good point on that. Heyman was in Braun Baker's corner.
Listen. Edge is great, but you got one bullet there, bud. You shot your shot. Sean just came in with a fuckload of ammo. That's it at the end of the fucking day.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that loss. Nothing wrong with that at all. You lost to Lance Armstrong when he was doping up like a motherfucker. Is what it is.
Yeah, you're right. It's just he was really on that, and I was like, I don't think that's the stuff you should focus on. But
yeah, I'd be happy with that. I'd be like, hey, that's all good. They stacked it up against us like we used to do when we stacked it up against them in the beginning.
Yep.
I mean, they did their best. You know, they brought down Finn and all that stuff in the beginning of NXT versus AEW days. Like, they did that. Yeah, it was cool and whatnot, but you were beating out the brand new newcomers, the brand new fucking show. It is what it is. It's all good.
It's so crazy because the biggest takeaway for me that Tuesday, when you combine the numbers, this is on a Tuesday. Over 1 million plus people were watching wrestling that night.
Was it like 1.5 like combined or something like that? Like, dude, that's still fuck the little petty like war that you have going on. Let's be honest. Like you said, fucking this is a win for wrestling.
Yeah.
Such a fucking win for wrestling. I'll take it. Tony Khan's being a bitch. Dude, just figure out your backstage shit and just stop worrying about everything else. and I'm the AEW stand of the fucking podcast. Like, come the fuck on, Tony. The fuck, bruh.
You're right. So I want to ask you about this phenomenon because this is other stuff that Tony has to worry about because they, no pun intended, they got a real megastar in WWE right now. LA Knight is it. He is it.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't see of recent AEW like elevating a male talent like that of recent.
As of recent, no. And it's something that we constantly bitch about with AEWs is the fact that they bring in someone, they're super popular for 2 weeks, and then they're completely forgotten about. That is the bed that they have made. That's the bed they have to sleep in. They have to fix that problem. LA Knight, I'll be the first to admit, I didn't give a fuck about LA Knight. In NXT days, like, when they did,
me either.
Like, I remember specifically us talking on the one podcast when it was like NXT Gold versus like new NXT, and LA Knight was on the fucking NXT Gold brand, and we're like, get the fuck out of here. You just showed up. You ain't shit. Like, you're a fucking TNA reject. Fuck out of here, bro. And goddamn, has LA Knight just rocket strapped himself, got himself over, made it work, and damn, that's fucking wrestling. That's what you need. Like, every new incoming wrestler needs to just watch that. Watch him from beginning to now. That motherfucker's got himself over.
Yeah, just think about it. Literally a year ago at this time, he was in the male model thing with Maxine Dupree, the male models things, and he got out of that, became LA Knight again, reinvented himself, and he's one of the biggest. Like, he's been WWE's top seller in merch for almost the whole 2023.
Which is hilarious because, like, it's not like he's put out like a really awesome shirt either. But it's still selling like a motherfucker.
And he's getting the crowd hyped in like these past couple of weeks, and now he's just I don't know if I've seen a rise like this from male models to you're getting a main event at the WWE Championship. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, because correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Blood Money, is it next week?
Yes, it's on the 4th. Yes, next week. So main event's going to be Roman versus LA Knight, and Jacob. We know the outcome of that match, but I mean, spoiler, Roman's going to win, but how do you protect LA Knight? How?
Um, I mean, from all the rumors I've seen that coming out after this, it's supposed to be Logan Paul versus LA Knight.
Okay.
Because I've heard Logan Paul is supposed to get the title
Mm-hmm.
from Rey Mysterio. So I have to imagine Logan Paul interferes somehow, cost LA Knight the match, and that's that.
Okay.
That's how you protect him. But at the same time, like, dude, I've seen a lot of people like making the argument, like, dude, fucking, now's the time. Pull the fucking trigger on it.
You know, I've seen that too. We know in wrestling and all the long historic years of wrestling, there are times where you pivot. I just maybe because as pure wrestling fans, and if anyone who ever listens to the L7C podcast, you know how everyone's hearts on this podcast was broken when Cody lost to Roman at WrestleMania. We're praying that he gets a run back. But speaking of that, side note, when Cody and Roman had their first face-to-face since that WrestleMania, did say that was money. That Triple H is killing it. Just side note on that, but if you want the biggest pop, maybe in the past decade, LA Knight winning would just be wild. It's just if the plan is Cody, you can't do it. But if the plan is not Cody at WrestleMania, then I don't know. Because we're gonna get to that point, dude. Blood Money is next in November. Survivor Series is in a couple weeks. We're gonna be, and then December, at the end of month of December, we're gonna be Royal Rumble previewing almost, and then we're back in busy season.
Yeah, we literally have fucking 2 months.
I don't know. We don't know who's gonna win that men's Royal Rumble yet. We don't even know who would be a front runner right now.
Well, it's not Dwayne. I can tell you that.
Hey, he showed up to SmackDown while we were gone. Wasn't that something? First time in 4 years he's been on. Isn't that something?
Yeah, motherfucker showed up because there was the actor's strike. That was all the reason he showed up. He's like, I guess my schedule's cleared out for the next couple weeks. I guess I'll show up. Vince, I'll get on a plane right now. Give me like $20,000.
Still wild, man. That was crazy. The crowd we were just like, wow. Then he had a thing with Theory and then McAfee and then Cena. But the fact he was there, I couldn't believe it but you're right, the writer's strike. But then again, his counterpart, John's been there for 2 months.
But John's real.
He's wrestling. He's putting over people.
Real one.
So
he's a fucking real one. But the LA Knight thing, okay, so let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
Theoretically, do you have LA Knight beat Roman Reigns, whether it's because of some bullshit or have him beat him clean, but then have Roman come back and just absolutely, utterly destroy him and get the title back? Or because LA Knight's so fucking hot, do you run but you want to keep the Cody into the main event thing? Do you run a triple threat? I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just throwing out the options here.
I understand. I wouldn't want Cody. No, I wouldn't want LA Knight to win the title just for Roman to kill him. Because I feel like when Roman loses that title, he needs to not win for a couple to really let it sink in that this historic reign is over. The triple threat thing is hard because Roman beating both of them is just hell for the company, because we are at a point where there's truly no one left for Roman Reigns. This LA Knight thing, he was not on our bingo board literally a year ago. And now he's become a contender. We are all high on Gunther on this podcast, but I don't think he's losing that title he has anytime soon. They haven't found a contender for him, so I can't pick him to do it.
I mean, let's say hypothetically, the writing staff says, fuck it, we're going to triple threat this at Mania of LA Knight versus, let's say LA Knight got screwed at Blood Money, and we end up with Cody in LA Knight versus Roman, night 1 or night 2, WrestleMania, whatever. I feel like you would have to do a triple threat elimination match.
Okay.
Not just a standard triple threat,
Mm-hmm.
a triple threat elimination match. Because could
Okay.
you imagine if Roman gets taken out by a crossroads and whatever LA Knight's finishing move's called, and then they both like lay on top of Roman to pin him, and then it comes down to Cody versus LA Knight.
Mm.
Win that to get the title, dude. That'd be pretty cool. I think
That is a good. That
it
is
won't happen, but fantasy booking here.
Yeah, because they're gonna have Roman in. They're gonna have him roll 101 in night 2 for like his 4th straight. Like with this championship, he's defended this championship alone 4 straight WrestleManias. This title reign, like, it's unheard of. But I don't know, man, because I'm just really thinking like, what's gonna happen over there at Raw's? Like, is Drew gonna beat Seth? Like, is that gonna happen? Does Seth want? Are they gonna make sure Seth's the one who does it to Roman because he's the only one who hasn't technically lost to Roman during this title reign? Like, but again, I just feel like we felt like this for years. There's no one left. So unless Cody is going to be the one, and they didn't expect this LA Knight thing, is this Daniel Bryan 2.0? Like you said with the triple threat.
It could be, but like I said, if I was going to do it, I couldn't do it as a standard triple threat.
Mm-hmm.
I do it as a triple threat. You know, I'd borrow from times past. Do it at the Royal Rumble where you have Cody and LA Knight at the very end, and they both eliminate each other magically at the same time.
So they're co-winners. Okay.
You do like a weird co-winner one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't have Vince come down and tear out both his quads this time. Let it actually happen. You could do something different like that. And then the whole time you're going to be asking, like, oh yeah, Cody's going to finish the story. But LA Knight has been white hot for over a year now. Cody lost and LA Knight filled the void of like the people's, no pun intended, but the people's champ. You could do that.
That's true. That's something to really look into. And also just going back to something we talked about earlier with Tony Khan and that one NXT, that right, they stacked the deck. But the rest of the month of October, NXT is beating AEW 3 times.
NXT's finally coming back around.
Yeah.
NXT now is starting to have that that gold feel. that you know, not saying it's going to be as good as gold because I don't think any wrestling ever will beat that prime of wrestling. But it's Shawn Michaels is doing this thing down there. You know, obviously having Triple H letting Shawn kind of do whatever he wants to do, I'm guessing, you know.
He got Becky Lynch for a month. I mean, Becky Lynch, when she beat Tiffany to win that NXT title, we were like, really? But then Becky took that to took it to every show. She was defending the NXT title on NXT, on Raw, at live events. And then when it was time, she put over who she put over, and now we have a new champ. So it's like, that's what you do when you're a big name.
Yeah. Yeah, she did it right. And good on them for making it work.
So to AEW's thing too, like, Jacob, I'm kind of mad that they had MJF versus Kenny Omega with no build-up. I'm kind of mad about that.
I don't blame you. I completely get it because they're like, I'm going to face you now. And it's like, bro, that's a fucking pay-per-view. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm happy you're not putting it on a pay-per-view, but at the same time, from a major wrestling fan standpoint, it's like, thank you, but at the same time, fucking why? Stop.
But that's a main event headliner, as we say on the pod, that you might pay the price for it.
Yeah, that's a really good pay-per-view match. The fact that, like, I don't want to sound like an asshole being like, oh well, you know, I am happy they didn't put it on pay-per-view, but at least you could have built it up more. But Edge is back, and the end of that 2 weeks is pretty much now. So, you know, maybe we'll focus back on the actual champion or some shit.
I think this is actually an interesting thing because from all the people, AEW's Captain America, John Moxley, he brought up that wrestling in general, they need a system to spot concussions and protect wrestlers. And we're talking about the John Moxley who will cut himself in half for a 5 minute episode on a random Wednesday because he's been hurt and stuff like that. What are your thoughts on him saying that we need to do better with concussions and maybe have like a concussion spotter, as he said, and notice when someone has a concussion so they could talk to the ref?
I see absolutely nothing wrong with it. Absolutely nothing fucking wrong with that. Honestly, I think I think the part of the refs thing, besides being the not the timekeeper, but the person who's like, hey, you got, X amount of, hey, hey, we need to wrap this up. Hey, we need whatever. I think they need to be better. I think across the board, I think there should be like weekly or bi-weekly. I'm not sure if classes is the right word, but there needs to be meetings on that stuff where, hey, we need to look at this, is this a concussion? Is this not, hey, do we stop the match? Hey, what do we do in this? The NFL does it, everyone else does it, minus, well, UFC and boxing. But honestly, I feel like maybe wrestling referees need to take more of that stance of a UFC boxing type thing where if you see more referee stoppages because like, hey, this dude dove right into the fucking barricade like Daniel Bryan did years ago and just completely stoved a spine and head and neck. Like, yeah, I understand. I see nothing wrong with that because at the end of the day, we need to keep everyone as safe as possible doing unsafe things.
Agreed. Jacob, you shared something today, actually, no, yesterday, I'm sorry, about a friend of the podcast, Ronda Rousey. She'll be debuting somewhere, Jacob. You want to talk about that real quick?
Yeah, I got to pull up that tweet again, or that messenger thing. But, let's see. Yeah, so Ronda Rousey fucking indie show. That was something.
Right.
Yeah, Wrestling Revolver? With Marina Shafir, which is one of the 4 horsewomen of MMA. So she showed up randomly, and now that was like a surprise thing. Now she's actually going to have a debut at Wrestling Revolver, which is an indie, but like a kind of a bigger indie, you could say, which is fucking weird. I didn't have that on my bingo card for this year.
Me either. And they moved Echo. And they moved Ronda to the alumni page on WWE, so she's done with them apparently. But that's interesting how she's doing that. So I guess as a wrestling podcast, we'll definitely keep eyes on that. But let's talk about the biggest rumor in the world of wrestling. No, we are not going to talk. Maybe we'll bring not the CM Punk as you people might think. That's not the biggest rumor in wrestling right now. The biggest rumor in wrestling is that SummerSlam may be in Cleveland, Ohio. Yeah, there's a rumor coming out that it is the front runner for SummerSlam 2024. And if that is the case, Jacob, what are your thoughts on that?
Honestly, I think at that point we need to get the boys together. When tickets drop, we need to buy some fucking tickets, and we need to go to this fucking show.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree.
I'm putting in time off for that. If it's in Cleveland, like fuck it, I'm going. I talked about going to the one in Tennessee like a year or two ago. Fuck, I'll go to this one.
Yeah, I wanted to go to the one in Detroit, but I was in a wedding. But if it's in Cleveland, I 100% agree. You get everyone together. You get the crew. Obviously, we can't take microphones in there, but we do a live podcast from like the hotel or something or Airbnb, like of a post. Like we come home from SummerSlam, we immediately record a podcast right there. Like this would be the biggest because I don't think we haven't had a Royal Rumble in Ohio. We've never had WrestleMania. We've never had Survivor Series. This would be the biggest pay-per-view ever in Ohio.
Yeah. The last big pay-per-view I can think of was it Money in the Bank?
Money in the Bank, yeah.
You guys went to that one years ago. Yeah, of course we have our Raws and stuff. It kind of shocked me that rumor got popped up because, like you said, it was in Detroit last year. I'm shocked they're kind of keeping it Midwesty.
Maybe they're realizing like the Midwest thing because we can't guarantee great weather in April because we're in the Midwest, but like August, it's pretty safe. So,
pretty fucking hot.
Yeah. But man, if it's in Cleveland, like it's one of those things, like if it gets announced, we're going to have to get the pre-sale tickets. Like this will be the biggest L7C podcast cover thing.
Yeah. Yeah. If we get the whole crew together, it'd be time. And,
Speaking
traffic will
crew,
be no shit. We could probably do an entire podcast in traffic.
Oh, yeah. Off the cuff, like the old wrestlers, baby recorder in hand, just put it in the middle and start going and start shooting. Especially if the main event's wild. Oh, man. What if that's the day Roman loses the title?
You never know.
If he gets past WrestleMania, I feel like SummerSlam would be the time. Like that, where title changes, like, man, because we know SummerSlam is the big four, so the matches will be wild.
I would say SummerSlam is what, number 2, probably on the big scale. Mania. Then I'd say SummerSlam, then Rumble.
Yeah, Survivor Series is a very distant fourth.
Yeah. But so that's been. It'll be cool if that turns out, if it's true. That'd be really cool. I mean, they'll do it at First Energy Stadium where the Browns play.
Yeah,
I'd imagine. I don't see them doing it in the Rocket Mortgage Field House. That's just regular fucking Raw.
Crazy too that the first SmackDown after Blood Money on the 10th is in Columbus, Ohio. So I plan on attending. Hopefully, they announced that we're going to be back in your state for SummerSlam next year. That is my goal. And then I'm like, all right, guys, because they put the date out before the tickets. So once they have the date, we all put the time in and we're in there. Because we know these PLEs, they're on Saturdays now. So that means you can really.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
We're not driving there on Sundays and then having to come back for work on Monday. These are on Saturdays. So we can make a whole L7C weekend out of it.
I'm down.
Go ahead.
It is kind of weird, though. I mean, it just seems like anytime WWE does an international tour, they always seem to somehow come back to Columbus, Ohio. Because every time they used to do like the Britain and European tours and all that stuff, it seemed like they always came back to Columbus.
Good point.
Anyways, you're going to say.
No, I was going to say, did you want to address, because this is another thing that's happened. I don't know when we'll be back, but obviously the rumor, Chicago, Survivor Series. What are your thoughts?
Oh, Punk. I don't know.
I don't think they need him.
They don't fucking. CM Punk needs WWE more than WWE needs CM Punk.
Mm-hmm.
Like what? There's no spots to get filled there.
Yeah,
absolutely not. There's no it. If CM Punk goes to New Japan, they're going to make a spot because he's so big. If he goes to Impact, they're going to make a spot.
Yep.
AEW does not need a spot filled. WWE does not need a spot filled. I personally could care less if CM Punk would show up. I actually kind of hope he doesn't. Like, I don't want to. CM Punk's stock has dropped so significantly in my book.
Yeah, I agree. I don't particularly would want to see him either. I don't. Obviously, the crowd's going to be chanting his name the whole show, but I think they're still going to deliver a great show. But
dude, what's it going to take for the fucking Chicago crew, the Chicago crowd, to just go like, all right, fuck Phil, come on, bruh.
I don't think anything will, bro. Like, he did the Blackhawks opening when the NHL started, so
yeah,
I don't think that anything will. But Jacob, anything else, man? This has been a great first time back in a month. just covering all the big things that have happened since we've been gone.
Let's see, it's 7:19 right now on a Sunday, which means something crazy will happen within the next half hour, as it always does. But
got Blood Money coming next week. We got Survivor Series a couple weeks after that. Maybe we'll see the Survivor Series card come back of something crazy. If LA Knight, depending on how that main title goes, we might be coming back because we remember when the Usos pinned Roman, and we did not see that coming, and we were just like, "Oh, Roman could be pinned. This is possible."
And we got Cena at Blood Money. That's going to be fun.
He's going against Solo. For the people, also, we haven't said this, for the people who don't know, Solo is Umaga's kid. And if you've watched John Cena for the past you're almost going to be saying 25-ish years, 05, 07 Cena versus Umaga, you could see Cena's bloody faces, like they had real wars. So the fact that he's been around long enough to go out with the kid now, that's crazy.
Yeah. And then you got like Cena's like whole new thing now, like, I don't know if I can do it.
That was crazy. They're like, you still got it, but I've never heard anyone say, but what if I don't? Like that was a good one.
But
he acknowledges the shit. Like he hasn't won in like 4 years. And it's weird because he's John Cena, and it's like, but to your thing, like you say, it's like, you're so big now, you don't need to win, and no one gives a shit because you're one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, you're a Mount Rushmore guy. You're there. But I'm happy to see him be putting people over. He's still cutting just phenomenal promos. Still, like his comment about Solo saying he's like a discount Taz or a knockoff of the Taz. Dude, I was laughing at that one. That's pretty good.
Dude, you want to talk about promos? This is what made me actually really believe this man might win. When Roman is doing his entrance and LA Knight cuts his entrance off, walks straight to the ring, doesn't acknowledge him. Then LA Knight gets his chair, puts it at the head of the table. And when LA Knight brought up the suffering succotash, that's when I was like, oh, they're letting him really go at Roman, because we all know suffering succotash is one of Roman's worst moments of career. And LA Knight's like, you failed over and over. And we're like, damn. And then the rest of the community is like, damn, that's true.
It was very true.
That's very true. You brought up suffering succotash. If he would have brought up how he got his ass killed by Cena in 2017 too, I would be like, oh man, this is rough.
Like, yeah.
They're letting him go. This is why I'm like, oh, does this guy actually have like a 2% chance? 2%.
Yeah. Easily he's got a 2% chance.
Okay.
Roman ain't got a 99% chance. He's got 98%.
98%, which is a big deal.
It's a big fucking deal.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Which is kind of fucked up, but at the same time, like, good job, WWE. Like, we're over here talking about 1%. We're like, fuck yeah, let's go LA Knight. That's our boy.
I know. You got random people saying yeah now, so he's crossing over.
Dude. All right, so like, I know I sent you guys the video. I mean, the listeners don't know about this, but it's been over a month ago up in Canton. They had this big concert thing called Tacos and Tequila Festival, and it had like T.I. and Rick Ross and 2 Chainz and all those guys. But when T.I. was singing, I think it was Live Your Life or something, but like when he goes like, yeah, I was over there, I was like, yeah, and dude, I had like 3 people in front of me. They just start fucking busting out laughing. They're like, fuck yeah, LA Knight, let's go. Yeah.
He's here. He's here, man. Like,
dude,
so sad. I was sad when they announced that match, because I'm like, oh, he's going to lose to one spear and it's going to be over.
Yeah, but I don't know.
But that was when they announced it. Now I'm like,
he might have to do like the bounce off the bounce off the bounce off.
Then that's game over. That's game over.
It might not just be one spear. He might have to do the super spear.
Yeah, the super spear. Oh
shit, that's something else we can talk about. Did you watch that? I know I mentioned it earlier, but did you watch the Ngannou Tyson Fury match yesterday?
Yeah, I saw like I didn't watch the full thing because I was watching some other stuff, but I was like tuning in, seeing like highlights and all that.
Did you hear the Roman Reigns comment?
Yeah.
Fucking Francis Ngannou threw a Superman punch on me. We were up at a Halloween party and we were me and my one buddy, we were watching it. And he threw Superman punch and I was like, oh, Superman punch in the commentary team's like, and somewhere Roman Reigns is smiling right now. And I'm like, oh, they did a wrestling reference.
It's wild. Speaking of wrestling, I mean, you want to talk about a row? Vince McMahon was in a row with Mike Tyson and Eminem, and he showed up there with Undertaker.
Or how about did you see the interview with Vince and Taker?
I didn't click on it. I couldn't take Vince McMahon walking with a cane. I couldn't do it.
Okay, well, the guy that was interviewing dastardly Vince, that's Vince McMahon with a mustache. For all of you who do not know, the dude was talking about. Goes, oh well, since like, are you and Dana White are you still like busting his chops and stuff? He goes, Vince like, oh no, I never would do such a thing, and like Undertaker literally just started laughing. Like, yeah, you're full of shit, Vince. He's like, well, if Dana wants like tickets to WrestleMania, are you still going to give him like really cheap seats? He goes, I never gave him cheap seats. And like Taker just started laughing again. Like, dude, it was funny as fuck.
Yeah, Dana White also brought up how this merger is like, man, before I used to hate Vince, but I mean I respect him because he's a freaking killer. He's like the Michael Jordan of business. Like he's effed me over a couple of times, and now we're partners, so.
Oh, they both fucked each other over so many fucking times.
I will say the one time where, to me, it was like they really worked together is the fact that Brock Lesnar got to fight at UFC 200 and he was in the main event of SummerSlam like 2 weeks later. That was wild shit.
Yeah.
That was crazy. But I don't know, man.
I was still disappointed that he came out to UFC 200 and he didn't come out to his WWE theme song.
That's true.
And the fact he did cost me money because he beat Mark Hunt, even though he was poisoned up on steroids. But I was more disappointed by the fact I didn't hear bounce. Right. That was really fucking cool.
And then real quick too, also August 31st, 2024, WWE's having Bash in Berlin, first ever major premium live event held in Germany. Dude, they're really pushing this international stuff. And I know we talked about it on podcast a couple months ago. United States, we got to step up, man, because these international crowds are wild.
Yeah, Cleveland, Ohio. I'm looking at you.
If we get SummerSlam, yes.
Fucking SummerSlam. Dude, you know what? Fuck it. We just keep adding on to all this little stuff. It's great. Let's talk about the Berlin show. And let's talk about the fucking Cody Rhodes t-shirt. Can we talk about it?
To claim your kingdom?
To claim your kingdom with the German flag. And like, I think everyone under every comment section, under everything, was like, who the fuck allowed this under the fucking, like, how did this get past everyone? Like, listen, Germany's trying claiming their quote unquote kingdom twice now, and it fucking fucked over the entire world. Can we just stop with claiming your kingdom, Germany? Like, listen, I'm sure you're cool and all that, but nah, you ain't getting shit for a fucking kingdom anymore. Fucking stop it.
That's funny. Just because we always make this meme joke, but just to laugh. First time in 10 years, none of the 4 horsewomen were in the top 10 for PWI Women's 250. First time in a decade. Obviously, it's based on like the story stuff and what they've been doing. I do believe Mercedes would have been on there if she didn't get hurt. Because I don't know what that title reign would have been like. And Charlotte was gone for most of the time. But I just laughed because, you know, that famous tweet, like their era's over, but Becky Lynch won the NXT championship. Charlotte's going to win a title again soon. And they'll be right back. Man.
We're on the PWI top 10. So fucking horsewomen era is over, big dog. It's done.
We'll see. We'll see who the women main event is and who wins the women's Royal Rumble. Then we'll really see anything else, Jacob.
I don't know, man. It's been a good run. For
the 4 horsewomen or for us?
No, for the 4 horsewomen, man.
Oh yeah, they've had a great, fantastic run. 10 10 years of dominance we've never seen before, just all over, even though they all still wrestle. Crazy. But with that being said, thank you everyone for listening to the L7C podcast. We're back with wrestling. We're going to be, talking about what happens at Crown Jewel, talking about what happens about Survivor Series, getting ready for the end of the year. Before you know it, we're going to be coming in with who do we want to win the Royal Rumble and start previewing that. But with that being said, L7C podcast signing out. Thank you for listening to this episode of the L7C podcast. Be sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all social media platforms, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. Take care.